Alright, week 2. Yes, it's cold outside, but I have good gloves, I have 2 layers of socks, insulated jacket, and a hat. Remember, and if this is winter time, wherever you are, it's going to be colder than what you're used to, so stay bundled up. Ears, nose, fingers, and toes should be covered. That way it makes it relaxing. I forgot to bring my glasses, but that's also another option. Even though it's not sunny outside, the snow being white is very reflective, so it makes me squint a lot. That could bring on headaches, but the idea is to get out. Up and back. Remember, 10 minutes up, 10 minutes back. In hiker talk or hiker speak, that's just going to a trail that's one way. There's also things called loops. In this local forest preserve, Springbrook, they have a loop that's very short. It's about half a mile, but it's easy to get 10 minutes up and back, or do the loop for 20 minutes. And that's all I ask, is just to get in the habit of doing some form of regular walking where you can get hopefully away from the sound of machines. Right next door is a road, and you can hear, I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up with a microphone, you can hear some cars. But aside from passing cars, it's quiet. Even, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the crunching of snow under my boots. When you hear things like snow, and you hear the repetition of your footprints or your footsteps in the snow, or for all that matter, on a trail with leaves in the fall, on the sidewalk with rain in the spring, or just in the summertime with dry grass and dry stone, the repetitive pounding of your foot on that form of nature elicits a response that your brain remembers as being this is getting away from machinery, this is getting away from technology. And that's what I want you to try to develop in this next, well, it's a 12-week course, but the idea is to throw in something different than you're used to. You can still do the exercise as we will talk about in the next few weeks. You can still do your elliptical or your treadmill if you want to, but I want you to try to use this to kind of get back to your source, as Wayne Dyer says it, and listen or develop that listening skill for your true intuition. Without getting too detailed into the mind-body part, I want you to just try to get 10 minutes up and 10 minutes back. 5 days a week if you can. So we'll progress in this second week to maybe a local forest preserve or a dog park or a nature center. My suggestion is you go on the internet, this is when you're at work or when you're at an accessed internet point. You go on the internet, go on Google Earth, open up Google Earth and put down your address. Once you zero in on your address and zoom in, you start to zoom out and you look for patches of green. Or if you're in a desert, patches of area where it's all brown with no streets. Zoom in and usually you'll have a symbol that shows either nature preserve or forest preserve or a area set aside by your state and or the government, and see if you can take a walk through that place. That's how I search for places, no matter where I am in the world, to get away from the technology or the sounds of machines. Again, 10 minutes up, 10 minutes back. Try to make it 5 days a week. This being the second week, I want you to learn a little bit more about glycemic index. This is a pretty decent book. It talks about an intro to a insulin-resistant diet. And the idea about insulin resistance is that if you are somewhat overweight or have been carrying extra weight, a high BMI, for example, your cells are trying to protect themselves from an excessive amount of sugar. That's also injury or dangerous. So cells learn how to ignore and not allow high amounts of sugar into their cytoplasm or their center. The cell wall will only allow carbohydrates in if the insulin is there, and when you eat a lot of crappy foods, high glycemic index foods, insulin is really secreted at high levels to match the sugar, and the cell again tries to protect itself by ignoring the insulin, so it does something called downregulate. it decreases the receptors in the cell wall. So if you had a cell wall and you had 10 insulin receptors on it, when it continues to get exposed to high levels of insulin and sugar, it actually cuts it down to maybe 5 or 2, depending on how long you've been dealing with it. Again, to protect the cell itself from excessive amounts of sugar. So sometimes if you try to lose weight, going with a low carbohydrate diet or insulin resistant diet would be a little bit easier in the first few weeks to have the cell work properly, to have the energy from the small amount or the reduced amount of food that you're eating get in and provide you with energy so you can continue thinking, perhaps continue exercise, continue fighting infection, continue with hormone response, good sleep. All these are important, and if you get on better foods, every cell that takes advantage of that will actually work better. When the cells start to work better, the systems start to function better. Digestive system functions better, nervous system functions better, muscle systems respond faster, immune system responds and defends. And that leads me to the next supplement. Yes, this is a probiotic I picked up at Fruitful Yield. You can also find this at Whole Foods. It's a probiotic is a bacteria in a capsule. Whenever I mention probiotics to my patients who I give antibiotics to in the immediate care center, they always say, oh, how about if I just take yogurt? And I don't want you touching dairy for reasons of bovine proteins and a whole bunch of hormones that are probably secreted into the dairy. I just like you to avoid dairy. Anyway, just taking a probiotic is much cheaper, and it'll afford you a distinct amount of bacteria. Usually, they're encapsulated probiotics are about 3 billion. There is something called VSL3 that is prescription strength. Some insurance companies cover it. That's about 300 billion. Yogurt, as an example, only carries about 70,000. So if you want to start beefing up on the colon flora, probiotic is to be started this week. And there are some studies that show in rats, when you transfer the fecal matter from a rat that had obesity to a rat that has a normal weight, it will become obese. Same thing if you transfer the fecal matter from a rat that is skinny to a rat that is normal weight, it'll become skinny. So there has something to, the theory is that something has to do with the flora in the gut. And if you're an average American, you're probably being hit by antibiotics at least 3 times in your life, sometimes 3 times a year. You want to improve your flora with a probiotic of some sort. So 1 a day until we're finished with this in 3 months. Don't be discouraged, there'll be other pills, but hopefully by the 4th to 8th week, you'll be reducing some of these things and getting on just the healthy foods. Always want to take advantage of healthy foods. If you can't take advantage of healthy foods, then you use supplements. But this is just to slingshot you into the part of the last few weeks where it's all hopefully just with nutrition, whole food, plant-based diet, and exercise and relaxation.